You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig any deeper now? I gave you all I own, put you on this golden throne, but I'm a little stronger now. You cashed in on my promises, you know I'm too generous. Now I've learned to never help you out, 'cause I'm done cleaning up your mess. Found myself in my regrets. I've become a little stronger now, a little stronger now. Too generous. Now I've learned to never help you out, 'cause I'm done cleaning up your mess. Found myself in my regrets. I've become a little stronger now, a little stronger now.
G'day guys, my name is Corey from Designs by FR. Welcome back to another video, and today we are here in Taiwan with a very special guest. We've been working behind the scenes to come up with a bit of a collaboration project, something pretty big and unique. And why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So I'm Marcus, I'm from PC Centric, which is a UK YouTube channel. Although there's not really such thing as a UK channel when it comes to YouTube, is it?
Right, and behind us here we have Project Unity, which is the center of a big collaboration setup that we will be showing you guys.
So I guess we probably should actually talk about how this thing came up and how this project came to be, which actually was when Cooler Master got in touch. Well, they did with me anyway, I'm assuming they did with you.
Yep.
And they wanted to put together a setup that not only there's almost like a bit of a cliche when we say take a setup to the next level, but that is sort of what we wanted to do here.
Yeah, that's right. We needed to come up with a design that flowed not through just the setup itself, but we needed to incorporate the PC to make sure that that fit in simultaneously with the setup as a whole.
And the theme, we were thinking around initially maybe like a nightclubby sort of theme, because there's loads of bright lights in systems these days, right?
Yep.
And they don't always match with what people are trying to do. In the end, we sort of decided on a like a motherboard style, everything connected theme. Is there a better way of describing it?
Yeah, so the way we tried to approach it was to try and basically have everything flow as one system, and we wanted to use the circuitry behind that to sort of link up all of the components of a setup, the speakers, the monitors, have that all flow together to create one ultimate setup.
And one of the ways we thought of doing this was to actually put the computer on top of the wall itself and then have that all on display, because then that not only shows off the computer, but then you get a nice clear desk as well, and you just get a nice minimalist sort of workspace, really.
Yeah, it was a good way for us to save room as well, and cable management was a big factor that we wanted to take into account. We've actually got cables routing inside of the wall, so to speak, so we're trying to create that clean gaming aesthetic, which you guys should see.
So let's talk a little bit about the concept and what we were actually trying to do here. So for some context, Cooler Master got in touch with us and they wanted to fly us out here but put together something pretty special, right? And we knew it was going to be a gaming setup, but pretty much everything else really was up to us. Things like the theme and what we actually wanted the overall thing to look like, I guess. Where did we begin again?
So, as he said, yes, we wanted to create something totally unique and ultimate. So our first concept design was trying to make all the parts flow together. So we started with a nightclub theme, and eventually we ended up settling on something a bit more subtle. We still wanted to keep all of the lights in there because it had to be nice and bright and stand out on the wall. And we ended up coming up with a circuitry design. And the reason behind the circuitry design is we wanted everything to flow and seem like one ultimate gaming setup, rather than having everything as separate components within the setup itself.
And the wall is quite an interesting one, actually, because it's not something I think you see that often. I mean, we've heard of wall PCs, but this was almost put together so that, as you say, everything's like a circuit board, everything works together, and I believe you've called the PC itself Project Unity as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the idea behind it was to have the PC mounted up on the wall, so it was plain and visual for everyone to see above the monitors, and we did call this Project Unity, and the reason behind this is because we wanted the setup to act as one setup instead of individual components, and we have achieved this by having all of the circuitry come out from the PC itself and actually flow to all of the different components which create the ultimate setup.
And the thing I sort of love about it is that everything needed to be super clean, and I guess this is what a lot of people, when they're going for a really serious setup at home, are probably going to need to look at, right? Because we've got all the cables going through the wall, which makes everything look really clean and tidy, and then we've got all those nano leaves just sort of showing everything off, shining bright. So I guess when we're sort of designing a setup, it's these sort of things we need to think about, right? It's not just the components, it's how it's going to work together.
Yeah, so a lot of it is functionality, and you also want to try and make your setup, make it unique, make it your own personal setup, give it your own personal touch to it. And I think that we've achieved this by, implementing that circuitry design and just really cleaning it up by having all those cables go through the wall. So as a PC modder, it was my duty to come up with a theme and design for the actual PC itself. And talking with Marcus, designing the full setup, we wanted to try and make the theme of the PC flow throughout the setup. So once we had a design, we decided to implement the circuitry board design around the outside, and we also wanted to keep the front panel off so that we could get that illumination coming out and we'd be able to see all of the PC parts shining through in the setup itself.
So what have we actually got inside? Because I know there's a 1080 Ti in there, which is obviously going to give us great performance, but it's almost would be an insult to the system to just talk about performance when, well, we have this in front of us. We've obviously got some custom water cooling here, but how does it all work, I guess, and what was the thinking behind getting it all together and looking as incredible as it does?
Yeah, so as you said, we do have an ASUS STRIX GTX 1080 Ti paired with the RYZEN 7 2700X CPU. So we have the potential and the power to get some really nice 4K gaming out of it. And we wanted to keep this nice and cool, so we decided to add a custom liquid cooling loop. And we've basically got both the graphics card and the CPU water cooled. So as I said, it's going to keep the temperatures nice and cold. So as well as the CPU, we've also got some ADATA XPG RAM. Now this is one of their...
It looks absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's actually a new release as well, and it's got water cooling inside of it.
Which you don't often get for RAM, especially something out of the box. The LEDs in there look pretty damn cool.
Yeah, and I think being in the center of the PC, it's going to really make the internal stand out as well. Just adds a bit of illumination to the inside as well.
Yeah, and it's super silent as well, which is always something I think a lot of people miss out on when they're designing a system, even if it's not obviously as overboard, if you like, as this one. I like as well the fact that the side panel, we've got some custom design going on here that incorporates that circuit board theme as well, and when we put it on the wall, it's obviously going to fit in completely. But I think we have to talk a little bit about the case as well, because this is a brand new one from Cooler Master, I believe. It's the 500M.
Yes, the H500M case, it was actually quite an easy case to work with as well. You can see that we've got the nice panel etching on the front and the top. Once again, the heart and the brains, I want to sort of try and incorporate that to show that this was the heart of the setup. And the laser etching illuminates really nicely with all of those LEDs behind it. So yeah, there was a whole sort of theme and idea that we're trying to go with at the front and the top there. So with this project, what would you say is quite unique about this compared to other projects that you've done in the past?
So a lot of the setups I sort of work on are more off-the-shelf things. So we've got things that still work together but are maybe a lot easier to sort of plan out. The thing that I really like about this is just how we had quite a lot of resources to be able to put together something that is quite big and bold. I mean, sure, this is a setup that is on display at Computex, but there's no reason you can't sort of bring that down and put into a space at home. But like the custom PC itself, like I don't actually tend to work with that many custom PCs or water cooling or things. So it's really nice to have that, but it's also nice to have something that is just so bright and bold, yet still has the elements of being able to sit and just have this as your space. It makes a nice change. So with a computer like this, that's clearly going to take a lot of work to get it looking as pristine. What's your sort of process behind it? How would you go about tackling a project, I guess, like this?
So for me, I like to initially tear the case down, take all of the panels out that I don't need to work with or I want to keep safe, so I'm not going to scratch anything. And the whole process for me is I like to do a bit of a sketch to begin with, see what the idea is going to look like, and just get a feel for the concept. And what I like to do is I like to test fit all of the components to see the amount of space that I actually have to work with and the different sort of mounting options that I have available in the case, because a lot of this work requires like mounting, and I'm going to be taking up a lot of space with the water cooling itself as well. So I'd say for anyone who is trying and looking to build a custom PC themselves, definitely start with actually putting the PC together, and before actually water cooling, test the components out on air as well.
Yeah,
otherwise
you have no idea.
Yeah, you're going to be
what's
tearing
going
down
on.
that water cooling loop, and it's just going to be a nightmare. So. And likewise, when it comes to planning a setup, how would you initially begin?
I guess it is planning, really, is the main thing you've got to do, right? But it's to know what you're working with, what you're trying to achieve, and then trying to get everything to sort of talk to each other, if you like. So I've had it before where I've thought that maybe an ultra-wide would work on a particular desk with some large speakers, and then they just don't fit on the same desk. You've got to know exactly what you're working with, but also what you're trying to achieve as the end result. Are you trying to get something that is going to be quite a calming, relaxing place to be? Are you trying to work with something that is going to be bright and vivid and built for gamers? It's, I guess, working with the space you've got, planning out exactly what's going to go in there and just making sure that everything works together. So I think one of the things we really need to talk about, though, is how someone could get their own setup, if you like. It doesn't have to be ridiculously over the top. I remember watching videos just like this only a few years ago and just not being a bit scared of it, but seeing it and knowing that this is quite a big deal. How can someone get a space of their own, if you like, at home if they maybe don't have that much physical space or maybe don't have that much budget to throw at it?
So I think from my perspective, being a custom PC builder, if you're scared of touching your PC case, creating holes in it,
Water cooling as well.
water cooling, I think the best thing for people to do is try and go out of your way, spend like $20-$30 on a cheap computer case. You can get cases out there which are older cases and just for really cheap, and I'd say start there, familiarize yourself with the whole concept and how you can approach it. And acrylic is a really cheap material, really cheap to get and create some custom designs.
So that, I guess, is practice, right? If you wreck a $25 case, in the grand scheme of things, maybe that's not that much of a big deal. Whereas if you're planning something very expensive and you've never done it before, I guess that's a good place to start.
That's right. And in terms of like the water cooling, people don't have to start with the hard tubing. There's always the soft tubing option out there. It's a little more easier for beginners, I feel. And if you don't want to go for the soft tubing, there's always all-in-one coolers, which they keep the CPU and the GPUs nice and cool as well.
Yeah, and I guess talking more specifically about the setup as well, one of the things I did that really helped me, I was in a small bedroom for 3 years, and I was working off a desk that I got custom made to the exact space because it was a really small space. I mean, we're talking ridiculously tiny.
Yeah.
And then sort of went from there, I guess, and you just build it up over time. Just because maybe you don't have that much budget now, I mean, you start planning it for the future, right? What might you want to put in there, and you can start with some cheaper things now. Maybe you want to go dual monitor later. Well, just get one decent one now, use that for a while, and then you can obviously do the mounting and the dual monitor thing later.
So I handled the PC side of things. What about the setup itself? What can we expect to find?
So the setup itself, we knew that we wanted to use triple monitors. We wanted something that takes up a lot of space, but obviously rewards you with all that on-screen real estate. And the monitors themselves are 1440p. They've got G-Sync, which gives us reduced stutter and tearing in the games that will work with the 1080 Ti. But because they're 1440p high refresh rate monitors, we're getting not only high resolution, but super smooth gameplay. That if we span across all three things and maybe something like Civilization, that's a bit less graphical intense, we can just get some absolutely insane visuals, if you like. But then the speakers as well, I will admit we have sort of rearranged them slightly differently to probably how you'd have them at home to make the space look cleaner. But they are surround sound speakers, so we would have a full sort of audio image that goes all the way around us. They not only look pretty incredible, but they're going to give us some bass in the shooter titles, but also the clarity when we're listening to music as well, which is sort of what we're trying to achieve here, I guess.
So guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you all enjoyed our coverage of the ultimate setup, and definitely check out Marcus's channel. Leave the links down below in the description, and you can check out his Twitter as well.
It's at PC Centric. So I think if you want any advice about modding or setups or anything in between, really, then Twitter's going to be a good place for us both, really.
That's right. So hope you all enjoyed, guys. Remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing. We've got plenty of videos like this on the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.